Hey everyone, and welcome back to It All Starts With a Wish podcast. My name is Rachel.
And I'm Mark.
And today I wanted to shed some light on something that I feel like a few clients might overlook, or I think people kind of battle with this decision while trying to stay on a budget, and that is whether or not to go value resort or maybe moderate, and kind of why people, I guess, kind of shy away from the value resorts and like the all-star resorts. And I'm not saying everyone does this, but I've seen quite a few people be like, I didn't want to stay at the all-stars. It's because they're kind of like bottom of the barrel, as far as price point, not really other things. So I think that people kind of compare them to, I don't know, just that's the only thing that, some people can afford. Mm-hmm. So they're just like, well, I can spend a little more than that. But just like as their name implies, there is value to these value resorts at a lower price point, so everyone can enjoy.
There is a lot of value to staying at a value resort, and the word value is definitely going to become a trigger for some people by the end of this episode of the podcast.
If I have to hear the word value one more time, it's going to start sounding weird to me the more I say it.
So yeah, kind of big structural points here, right? Disney decided to divide their resorts at Walt Disney World up into 3 different categories. You have, at the very top, your most expensive resorts are known as deluxe resorts. These are your Grand Floridians, Contemporaries, Polynesians, Yacht and Beach Club, Boardwalk, Animal Kingdom Lodge, Wilderness Lodge, all of those resorts that you think of right away that have really nice pools and amenities.
Yeah.
Very
it's always
easy.
The pools that people think of.
Yeah. Very easy access to at least 1 or 2 parks, whether that's the ability to walk into a
different
park.
Forms of transportation that we talked about.
The monorail or whatever. And usually pretty high-end and upscale restaurants within those locations. So you're paying the most, but you're also getting some of the best benefits.
Right.
In addition to that, you also currently, at the time of the recording of this, get special evening hours where you get to stay later in the park,
which you are
other guests at moderate and value resorts do not get. Below your deluxe resorts, middle of the road, are your moderate resorts. These are Caribbean Beach, Port Orleans, both Riverside and French Quarter, the 2 subdivisions of that resort. These resorts, you're going to pay pretty much middle of the way prices, and you are within pretty close proximity to certain parts and may have other options for transportation than just buses.
Yeah.
But you're not getting as much on the level. Yeah.
Like you're half and half. Like you're half value, you're not paying too much, but you're also not, you get some of the benefits from the deluxe that trickles down, but you also have the benefits beneath you from being a little lower in price.
Right.
So you did that middle of the road.
Kind of a split.
Yeah.
Then at the very, the bottommost tier, the most affordable, are your value resorts. These include all 3 of the All-Stars, music, sports, and movies, as well as Art of Animation and Pop Century resorts.
I know. They're like a weird subcategory.
Yeah, they almost fall under, I like to call them value plus.
Yeah.
Because
they're value plus.
They're on that line of being a moderate resort.
Right on the line.
In both price and amenities that are provided. But, they technically do fall within the value category.
Yeah, they're still under that umbrella, but their prices do reflect a little bit of a jump. Not crazy, but a little bit of a jump. And then, like you said, you get some of that trickle down with maybe the Skyliner and like all that other stuff. So you get a few more perks.
So with these resorts, you may not get top tier restaurants. You may not get the best transportation options. But I do think that there is good value to choosing these resorts.
Yes.
And I think one of the biggest points, me being a cheap person, is the price point that you pay at these hotels.
Yes, but I think that people, the reason why I started it like that, where I feel like people shy away from it, or maybe they're like, it's the bottom of the barrel, because I feel like they think if it's that low of a price point, then it's like cheap. But I still feel, even though it's
It may be the lowest, but it's not cheap.
well,
Let's
you know
get
what I
that
mean.
out of the
You know,
way here.
it's not cheap, and no, it's
Like,
it's
you are
not.
paying what you would pay at a comparable Hampton Inn or a Holiday Inn, any kind of
And I
middle
think
of the road
that it's
chain
nicer
hotel.
than those. Like, it's like, as far as the experience goes,
Sure, the experience.
I do
maybe.
think.
I wouldn't say that the amenities and the
No,
quality.
but like the rooms are still like, I don't think it's like they all of a sudden just, don't care about cleanliness or like upkeep things and like
Well,
all
yeah,
of a
but
sudden,
I don't
you know
think
what
that
I mean?
like a Hampton Inn or a Holiday Inn, like those are very good hotel chains,
they are,
and
but
they
I'm
do
saying,
care
like,
about
Disney
that. So
is
I
still-
don't want to give that illusion. Holiday Inns and Hampton Inns are still
they're
very
very
good
nice.
hotels
We
and are
stay-
cleanly.
Oh no, but I'm saying that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Disney doesn't drop its standards just for the value resorts.
Sure.
I think people see the price go down and they think that everything about it.
This is not a
Goes
Motel
down.
6, though.
No.
Like, it's not.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It doesn't, just because it's in the lower bracket, the lowest group, doesn't mean that you still don't get the same, honestly, same level of service with cast members and attentiveness and stuff that you would at the Grand Floridian. They're not going to treat you any differently, like, across the board.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you
Yeah.
don't experience any less Disney by being at a value resort.
Well, in some ways, you may even experience more Disney.
I
But
argue that you do.
That aside, for now, the
Yeah.
price point I do think provides the most value. So what would you pay to spend the night at one of these hotels?
So right now, if we were looking at this time of year, obviously different times of year, different weeks, different holidays, over weekends, all of that stuff
And
varies.
this time of year would be a relatively affordable time of year to travel.
This
there.
would be. We're in the off season.
Early November.
Before the holiday season starts, because that's when it really gets crazy. But you're also not in your peak season of summer. So kind of that October, November lull after Halloween, before the holidays kick up, is definitely a good time to go.
Early November, definitely a
early
lull,
November.
slower time.
Yep. So right now, for All Stars, you're looking at about $150 a night. Obviously, depending over weekends, blah, 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 closer to maybe Thanksgiving. But at Pop Century, we talked about that little up a little bit, is $198 a night for those. And then it bumps up a
So
little
like $40
more.
more dollars.
Right. Art of Animation bumps up a little bit more. They also have the family suites. So that is where you'll see your big jump. Art of Animation for a standard room, you're looking at $235. So that is your bigger jump from the $150. The suites, however, they sleep up to 6. Those you're looking at about $480 a night. And this is
That's more moderate prices.
right.
But
So-
we'll sleep 6 people.
But it will sleep 6 people. So it's a good option for people who have more than 2 kids. You have 3 or 4 kids and there's 6 of you. You have a suite that's able to, you don't have to be in separate rooms and all that stuff. A lot of people don't know, too, that All Star Music also has family suites.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Yeah, me either. But it wasn't until I became a travel agent and learned all these little things. Those also sleep up to 6 people. But those are $341 a night.
So $140 cheaper than the ones at Art of Animation.
Right.
Also an older hotel, older rooms.
Right. And you don't have the theming like Art of Animation has. Like each of those family suites, you can have Finding Nemo, you can have Cars, you can have Lion King. So you won't have any of those like theming things. They'll just kind of look like a standard room with standard theming, but it'll be much bigger and have some of those amenities of a suite would have.
Yeah. And compared to a deluxe resort where you could be paying upwards of $600, $700 plus
Even
dollars
$800
a
sometimes.
night
Yeah.
to stay at those, or even a moderate resort where you may be paying
4 or 5.
around $4 or $5 a night.
Yeah.
that price point is relatively affordable and pretty darn close to the going rate of those chain hotels that we were talking about
Yeah,
earlier.
I wouldn't really say
We
it
just
would
went
be
to
any
a
less
wedding
than
and
that.
paid around $180 for a night.
And that was technically more expensive. See, this is why we should have just went to Disney. That was more expensive.
The wedding wasn't in Disney, though.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. We could have went one night and then look, now we can go for $150.
That's right, and then you add up the gift and all that, and it definitely would have been cheaper just to go to Disney.
Yeah.
You are so right.
Thank you. Girl math. Disney math.
Yeah. We're not talking about flights or anything else.
Disney's cheaper. It's fine.
Park tickets.
You basically get an
food.
annual pass,
Ugh.
and then you go once, and then every other trip is free after that.
Yeah. That's definitely how it works.
It is.
You're giving me indigestion right now.
I know. Anyways, back on topic. So obviously there's a value in the price. I think a lot of people only look at the price sometimes, but you have to look at the other things too. And I kind of don't like it when people like downplay the All-Stars. When they're like, oh, it's the All-Stars. Or like, oh, good thing we're not staying at the All-Star.
Yeah, listen, we were
Like, hey,
All-Star
hey.
people.
Yeah, right?
Until we bought Disney Vacation Club, we always would stay in one of the All-Stars
And
as a
guess what?
family because that's all that we could afford.
We could only afford that right now if we didn't have DVC.
Correct. Yeah.
We wouldn't be staying at Yacht Beach
No,
Club
we
in
certainly
Animal
would not
Kingdom.
be staying at the nice
Out-of-pocket
resorts.
prices.
No,
No.
not even close.
It wouldn't be. And that is, I think, where the majority of people vacationing there fall. So, people do kind of have that. That is kind of a negative, is that it holds a lot of people, and a lot of people go there. So, it does tend to be a little more crowded on the buses, and it's a little more hustle and bustle, less, like, relaxed atmosphere. But
And then there is those buses, man. I think one of the
buses are a
biggest
lot.
downside to value resorts is the fact that all of your All-Stars, the only option you have to get to any of those parks, that is Disney transportation,
yeah.
is the bus system. Art of Animation and Pop Century, I think a real tool in the toolbox there, a real bonus to staying at those two, is that you have the option of the Skyliner, which opens up such a lovely world in which two of those parks, Epcot and Hollywood Studios,
It's
you
such
can
a
just
nicer
ride the
experience
Skyliner
on the Skyliner
instead
than on a bus.
of still have to ride a bus to Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom, but even at deluxe resorts,
You just don't feel like you're always on a bus going somewhere
Right.
like you are at the All-Stars. We're supposed to be hyping the All-Stars up here. I'm not tearing it down.
I know. I'm just saying that
But
that
there are
is the
negatives,
one
and
thing that is kind of a downside to it, is that Disney transportation-wise, it's slightly more difficult because you are always linked to a bus. I don't think that the buses are as awful as people oftentimes play them out to be, or we complain about. You know, when you really think about the grand scheme of how quickly they do move people on the bus systems, and
how
you
many
may have to
people-
wait a little while, it may not be ideal, but it's not that bad.
I mean, really, if you had to guess, how many people do you think they could fit on one of those, like, big,
The tandem buses, I don't even want to guess.
Like,
they
how
can fit
many
a lot of people, though.
are
They move a
on
lot of people on those.
100?
Maybe.
Like,
Close to, maybe.
close to it. I mean, if we were packing people on, so like that's a lot of people on one, and they really are, keep the buses lined up, especially at busy times, fireworks, the morning. I mean, they know it. They have it down to a science. They're gonna get you out of there. But you pay that extra deluxe resorts, and then you don't have to wait. But
I do think that is the value of those Value Plus resorts. Maybe going into the coffers and dragging out $40 extra to stay at Pop Century a night gives you that added benefit of having access to the Skyliner.
Yeah, or even counter to that, which I think people think, like, as a travel agent, like, I'm just trying to get the most money out of you. Like, no, if you cannot stay at the Grand Floridian, I really don't want you to put yourself in debt over a Disney vacation.
Because you're much less likely to book another vacation.
Yeah, it's going to be miserable, right? No, like, it is. It's going to be awful. And you're going to be stressed about money. But I think that if you're not planning on using the resort as what it is, like having resort days where you're just at the resort every day, you're just hanging out by the pool, and you're not just using the resort. If you're just using it to sleep in, for me, it's like, why are you paying that extra just to sleep there when you could be staying at the All-Star?
Sure.
And maybe go for longer.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Or,
that,
add on whatever you want.
Again, I think it boils down to knowing your family, knowing who you're traveling with. I'm always a big advocate of midday naps and midday pool breaks and things like that. But if you know that your family's going to go all day, or you're in a group of people, maybe you're a bunch of teenagers or college students or whatever, and you know you're going to go to the parks all day and you're not going back to the hotel, why not
you really just don't care. Like,
right.
Like, they're like, yeah, that hotel's nice, but, like, if I'm just going to come back and nap and dip in the pool, like, I don't need to be in this luxurious pool. I just need to cool off and take a nap.
Right.
Like, then go with that, because you're going to save so much more money. That's the big bubble, is that you're going to save a lot of money. And
if you are there in the Disney mindset of, I'm just using the hotel as a place to sleep, staying in a value resort provides that tremendous amount of value in saving money, knowing that you're not really ever going to use the hotel besides just a place to lay your head at night.
Yeah. But since we've been talking about some of the negatives, I want to talk about a really big positive.
Well, I would say that was not a negative.
That was more of a positive. So now that we're on a
save
positive,
the money.
We're on a positive swing.
Right.
Now
And the buses
the
too. If you're not going to be going back and forth between parks and you're staying in a park all day, then it doesn't really matter so much because you're only taking a bus twice a day.
That's true. Yeah. So you just gotta. Well, you just know that's what you're going to be doing.
Right.
So you're fine with it. Then it's fine. One of the biggest things that I really wish every resort could just have, but I do know that you're paying for those upscale restaurants and stuff. But can we just please give the attention to the All-Star food courts that they deserve? Because they have the best food courts ever.
The food courts, this goes for all of the All-Stars and Pop Century and Art of Animation as well. Yep. The food courts there are the only options.
Yeah,
and
for food. But they make sure
really, in those areas, those are the only options for food because they are so isolated from other parks.
I know,
and other
but
locations.
They put that attention into that, so there are so many.
They have
options.
to, is my point, though. There has to be that many options because there's nothing else.
I understand, but I'm saying it's awesome because sometimes you don't want to eat at a ritzy restaurant every time.
True.
And the downside to what we just talked about at the beach club was that their market was limited.
Right.
Because there's other places to go, but sometimes you don't want to.
And you see that oftentimes at deluxe resorts, even at the moderate resorts. The food court or the marketplace or whatever they want to call it is very lacking in that quick service food.
Yeah.
Whereas at a All-Star or Art of Animation Pop Century, you have some really decent options. You usually have a pasta station,
pizza delivered to your room.
Usually have your burgers, your grill area. You have an area that does salads. You have all your muffins, all that kind of stuff. A bakery section.
Then they have the whole grab and go section with just like fridges and fridges of all kinds of sandwiches to go, salads to go, wraps, pudding, applesauce. I don't know, anything. You feel like you're in a grocery store. I feel like when you're there. So maybe I feel that way because I'm a all-star budget staying at a deluxe resort. So maybe I don't want to spend that money on, these fancy dinners or this and that. It's like, can I just have a quick service that's readily available? I guess. But it's probably, if I was paying out of pocket at the beach club, I guess I wouldn't be worried about
I guess not, but I still think that you are correct in that there are so many quick service options.
There are a lot.
That is nice.
It is very nice.
It provides you...
Especially when you have a lot of kids who are going to be maybe a little picky. You have tons of options for them.
Yeah, and you don't always want to go to a buffet dinner, or you don't always want to spend $80 to $100 on a meal. Yeah. Sometimes you just want something quick. And sometimes that can be tough to find,
Yeah.
especially at a deluxe resort,
Yeah.
depending on which one you're staying at. So those food courts are a great asset. And very nice gift stores, too, as well.
They
at
have,
those
yeah, they have
hotels.
some great stores, which is, but again, like, you know, it's all a science. It's all there on purpose, but you're not spending as much on a resort. So you can maybe spend more on souvenirs.
I think another great thing about value resorts is the theming that plays in throughout the entire resort.
Yeah.
And usually the food courts and the gift stores
All of it is still
just
themed
carry
that way.
along
Yep.
that theming. But this is very much in-your-face Disney theming. This is your giant characters.
You know you're in Disney. You feel like you're in a... It almost... You know what it makes me think of? It makes me feel like I'm in a park all the time. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm sleeping there. Like,
Yeah.
you're always surrounded by it. So now some people don't like that.
Right.
And some people
And
want to
in
feel the
certain
break.
deluxe, moderate resorts sometimes, you
There's
are
not enough of it.
engulfed in theming,
Yeah.
but not always
Like-
Disney theming.
Yes.
And so it's not always as readily available or readily recognizable that you're in a
Yes.
Disney resort
Yes.
in some of those other resorts.
Yeah, I think the
Whereas
All-Stars...
All-Stars, Art of Animation especially,
Yeah.
you know, you have in your face Disney
I feel like
characters.
there's such nostalgia, at least probably for us, when it comes to the All-Stars, and just like in general, because I feel like you see like the 101 Dalmatians. Like you see, what's his name? I forget it. It's on the tip of my tongue. The male Dalmatian, the dad.
No, I don't know.
Whatever.
I'm not a big
So
one
you
on
see the big
Dalmatians.
Dalmatian, or you see like you see the big Mickey, or the big sports, the big football field, and all these things, and you're just
The
and
Mighty Duck section.
The staircases
with,
are
the pool is an ice rink.
the Coca-Cola like things for like the movies, and it's like all of that is just like whoa, whoa, whoa,
Right.
and there's so
and
many
you do
little
watch
details,
kids at those hotels.
and they're just like amazed.
They are.
That like wow, it's just, and it, you know your audience. It is more for families, it's more for kids. It's not going to give you that adult vibe. It's going to give you family friendly, and definitely for the kids. And but even as an adult, there is that nostalgia there, that it is just what you think of Disney Resort, you think of the All-Stars. I think when you think of like a picture, like in your brain, like a picturesque like Disney Resort, it's like I don't really think of like the Grand Floridian. Like I think of the Big Dalmatian and Ursula. Maybe people don't want to think of the big Ursula, but there's a big Ursula, Art of Animation. But I think there's just a lot of nostalgia there. And I think it plays on people's nostalgia.
Certainly plays on yours.
All right. It does.
That's because you grew up going to those.
Yes,
I think if you grew up going to other hotels, though,
Then
you
yeah,
may have a
it would be
different
the
opinion
same
of
way.
that.
Yeah.
But I do think that ability to, like, when there's the Donald and Daisy figurines and
Yeah.
statues and like kids running up to that, and I think we all have pictures with, you know, like Herbie
Standing
the
in
Love
front
Bug,
of something, yeah.
All-Star movies,
Yep.
and the big massive goalie masks in the Mighty
Yep.
Duck section, or the big piano pool at All-Star Music, or the football fields at All-Star Sports. Like, there is something about that I think captures the imagination of people and
Yeah.
kids, and that is a level of in-your-face Disney that you're not going to get in deluxe or moderate resorts even.
Oh.
Because it's different. It's still in-your-face theming, but it's different. It's not in-your-face Disney theming.
I mean, I wouldn't even say Pop Century is Disney. It just takes Art of Animations.
Yeah, it's
and
just
then
the different decades
yeah.
of time in the
So it's not going to be like a
1900s.
giant Mickey, or.
Although I do think
whatever.
that they have a Mickey phone in one of
They do.
the sections,
I
if
mean,
I
it's
remember
there.
correctly.
Like we said, Mickey is everywhere.
Even in the
He's
deluxe resorts,
everywhere.
yes. He is everywhere.
You will find little hidden Mickeys everywhere. He is there.
You will.
But there is a lot of value. Value in price, value in, I think there's good food options there. There's value in spending less on your resort, maybe adding in magical extras like photo pass or a VIP tour, or having that extra money for those lightning lanes or Genie Plus, and you can add all that in. And I do think that there is, what's another word for value? Because I'm sick of saying it.
Before the start of this episode, we should have looked up synonyms for value.
Yeah, because I'm just like, so I just don't want to say it anymore. Worth, practicality.
There is a practicality. There sure
That's
is.
a word.
There is.
Merit, utility, advantage.
There are advantages, sure, to staying at.
Maybe that is a word.
At these resorts that we're talking about in particular.
Yes. At these useful resorts.
Oh, goodness. Anyways, people will, I think, oftentimes turn their nose up to All-Stars or to the value resorts as a whole. And I do think that there is clear advantages to staying at them on your next Disney vacation, especially if that opens up, as you have mentioned, those opportunities to do other things and spend money in other things that can make your trip more enjoyable too in the long run. I will say, I will always suggest to folks, though, and this is not a knock on the All-Stars.
Oh, no.
Not a knock on the All-Stars. But if Pop Century is only $40 more on average, usually somewhere in that range of, we'll say $40 to maybe $70 more, somewhere in there, to stay at Pop Century, I think it is so worth it, spending that extra $40 a night to stay at Pop Century. Or maybe even if you wanted to spend a little bit more and stay at Art of Animation, sure, but at least going with Pop Century, because you do have access to the Disney Skyliner, and I think
Mark has a crush on the Disney Skyliner.
You still... I don't know if it's a crush on the Skyliner or more of a love-hate relationship with the buses.
Bus. Yeah. Maybe it's
hate.
more that.
But that little addition, I think it's worth spending a little bit extra on to get that little addition, still have all those advantages that we talked about of a value resort.
Yep.
Relatively affordable price, nice clean rooms, in decent locations, great theming, good food, quick service food options. No sit-down meals at any of these resorts, but good quick service options. I think that that slight advantage that Pop Century and Art of Animation have of having the Skyliner is worth spending the extra money if you can afford to do so.
If you can. Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think that people should hear All-Star and, like
shy
you
away
said,
and
turn your nose or like, oh, that's...
This does get into a listener proposed Would You Rather, and of course we want to continue to encourage our listeners
and it's to do with this?
It does, sort of, yeah. We want to encourage our listeners to continue to reach out to us with Would You Rathers, because if you do not, we probably won't continue to do them because we run out of ideas. So we need your ideas. This listener proposed Would You Rather is this. Would you rather stay at Pop Century Resort or Art of Animation Resort? And so this fits quite nicely within our framework here of a value resort.
Well, you said Pop Century, and I was like, well, he's going to pick Pop Century if it's an All-Star because of the Skyliner. But both of these have the Skyliner.
Correct.
So
which one would you rather stay at? Would you rather Art of Animation or Pop Century?
I would have to say Pop Century. I would rather stay at Pop Century Resort.
That's great. Are you going to defend your answer, or are you just going to let it sit there?
No, I'm...
Okay.
And that is because of... really, the only reason is because of the size of Art of Animation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I feel like if you're in a standard room, or even just anything that's not a preferred room, or the Finding Nemo suites, it's quite a long walk away from everything else. So, that would be my only reason why.
Okay, I'm going to go with Art of Animation. If you can afford Art of Animation, I know it's a little more
Art
expensive.
Of Animation too, but that would be the one downside, so that's why I'd pick Pop Century. So,
sure. I know it's a little more expensive, but this resort is so so cool. The nods to Disney animators over the ages. When
just the lobby is really cool.
The lobby, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Sorry.
When you go through the lobby and you're kind of going through the sketches, just pencil sketches of characters, and then those sketches slowly but surely, as you make your way through the space towards the actual cafeteria, the food court, and the food court and the gift shop area, they start to come to life and color starts to get added. And I think when you first walked in, just that whole area where it's all the different color palettes and colors on the wall, I think it's just such an amazingly themed resort, and some really awesome movie suites that you can stay in. Little Mermaid, Lion King, the Lion King section.
Little Mermaid's not a suite. It's just a room.
Right.
But it's still
so
very
the Little
well
Mermaid
themed.
section is your normal rooms, standard rooms, whereas the other 3 sections are suites: Finding Nemo, Lion King, and Cars. And each one of those sections, so cool. Your main pool in the Finding Nemo section, the big blue pool. They used to play music under the water. I think they've put a stop to that now because people were staying under too long and endangering themselves.
Oh my
if they wanted to listen to music.
We can't have nice things.
But such a cool hotel when it comes to theming. And those suite options open up a whole different world for, your larger families and providing them the opportunity to all stay in one room in a really nice setup that also provides for a kitchenette and a table to eat at that converts to a bed. So really, really...
I feel like I have to defend Pop Century a lot more now.
Just really good options. I would suggest Art of Animation just because I think it is a more quintessential Disney resort. So I'm going to go with Art of Animation.
I would pick either of them. That's why this is so hard.
Right, but the purpose of this exercise is to choose one for the sake of discussing and providing knowledge for our listeners.
Pop Century also has a great pool. Like, it's still pretty big. They have the larger than life, like, memorabilia. Like, their lobby is all themed to their whole thing is to the centuries. The whole century.
The centuries.
The centuries. The whole century.
The 20th.
The decade.
The first half of the 20th century. I don't know what decades are, but decades, yes.
Decades is what I was trying to say. The decades. So all your buildings are going to have different slang terms or pictures. They have a lot of
and worth pointing out too that Art of Animation originally was intended to be a continuation of Pop Century.
It was.
And that the decades in the second half of the 20th century were going to be the different sections on the other side, but that was put a stop to with the 9/11 tragedy.
Yeah.
And then they reformulated after 9/11 and came up with the Art of Animation idea.
Do something else.
So, Rachel, Pop Century, I definitely would go with Art of Animation, but thank you to the listener.
But here we are, not at either of those resorts right now.
That's right, we're not. Thank you to the listener, though, who proposed that Would You Rather, and definitely continue to reach out to us with more Would You Rathers. Also, continue to subscribe, share, like this podcast, like our social media accounts. We have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram page. We do our best to keep those populated with things for you all to look at and to share. The only way that we continue to grow this podcast, the only way that we continue to do this podcast is if people are listening. So we want to thank our listeners, of course, the people who are already listening, and encourage you to share this with other people because hopefully the information in this is valuable for all of you who are planning your next Disney trip. So definitely like, share, subscribe, follow us so that way you get all those notifications whenever a new episode drops. And if you want to reach out to us with suggestions for future episodes or future Would You Rathers, definitely send us an email at startswithawish.podcast@gmail.com. With that, remember folks, it all starts with a wish. We'll see you real soon.
Bye.